for the Diffie-Hellman protocol, which is the same thing as saying there's no man-in-the-middle attack. It can block man-in-the-middle attacks if there is end-to-end protection in the signaling. Now, we don't have that yet, but someday when they get it working and they provide it, we'll be able to use it. So we're not depending on it, but we can use it when it becomes available. And conference mixers, we presume, will probably have that feature someday. In the meantime, while we're waiting for that to happen, we can use the short authentication string. You know, one of the things that you have to do when you're trying to deploy a new protocol is you have to find a way to avoid the activation energy, the step function of difficulty of deploying a protocol. You don't want to make it so that, you know, to get from here to here, you have to climb up a vertical cliff. You want to make it so that there's a ramp that you can gradually go up. And this protocol does that. ZRTP allows you to go into an environment where you don't have ZRTP support, and it will gently probe the other side to see if, do you support ZRTP? It sends a packet that says, hey, do you speak this? And if it doesn't get a response after a few retries, it gives up, and then you can just have a normal phone call. And similar to that, you know, the feature I just described to you that relies on end-to-end integrity-protected SIP, well, there is no end-to-end integrity-protected SIP right now, but that's okay, because right now you can use the short authentication string. And so we can go into environments that don't have these things supported and still work from day one. Come on, guys. Let's not always see the same hands. Turn the microphone back on more. When you hear me stop talking, turn the microphone on so I can hear people say stuff. I can hear you.
First, globally in the United States, do you think there are any publications who have any idea why the promotional policy which you expressed to today, the calls, do they get it at all? Or what do they really?
You know,
yes or no?
I don't know about what the politicians think. I mean, I know that there are some that do. You know, I'll tell you a completely shocking and surprising answer to your question. Many years ago, during the 1990s, when we were fighting the crypto revolution to get export controls stopped in the U.S., you remember in the 90s we had export controls. And also to stop the domestic controls that the FBI was trying to impose with the Clipper chip. We had to go to Congress and the Senate and fight for, you know, trying to get some legislation through to do this. And one of the guys that I met with is John Ashcroft. And as a Republican senator, he was in favor of the same positions that I was in favor of. He wanted to get rid of the export controls on crypto, and he wanted to stop the Clipper chip. Now, of course, he was probably doing that because he was a Republican and the president was a Democrat. But later on, as you know, he became Attorney General. And I think the reason why we never got crypto controls reimposed after September 11th is because John Ashcroft was Attorney General. Now, I have to say that I disagree with John Ashcroft on just about everything he ever thought of in his entire life, except for this. So we had the good fortune of having John Ashcroft as Attorney General for, you know, not getting the export controls in because of the position that he took when he was a senator. However, civil liberties in the United States suffered terribly under John Ashcroft because of all the attacks on civil liberties that he did in every other aspect of the legal system.
Yeah, I think the point is that what the message that you have to put out there, which is already not understood by a lot of civilians, is something that any government, whether it's the United States or other government, is always going to oppose basically because they lose control. You know?
Is that last part again? Any government is what?
A government will almost always impose a level of a perfect level of privacy that you really all would like to see, probably, because they're not going to have any control. They don't make the value judgment that someone like you would make and assume that this is the greater good is everybody has privacy and use it, you don't cheat to use it for anti-crime. That's what they do.
Well, yeah, I think that they're going to have to see it for this because it's so inevitable. In military terms, the military likes to talk about force protection. That's where you have people guarding the military base against attacks from the outside. Or in naval vessels, you have, maybe an aircraft carrier. You have airplanes that fly around and patrol to make sure no one attacks the aircraft carrier. That's called force protection. And law enforcement is going to have force protection also, in the sense that the damage that it does to law enforcement to be wiretapped by the criminals is so much greater than the advantage they get from being able to wiretap the criminals. Because, when they wiretap the criminals, they're supposed to get a court order. They don't always do that, but, they're supposed to. And, they claim that they're only doing a little bit of wiretapping. But the criminals will be able to wiretap anyone without a court order. They'll just do it because they want to do it. There will be no due process. They will just wiretap anyone they want to wiretap. They'll wiretap anyone in a position of power. They'll wiretap politicians. They'll wiretap judges. They'll wiretap prosecutors. They'll wiretap companies' presidents. Anyone with power or money or anything that they want to get, they'll be able to wiretap people. They'll be able to blackmail anyone. New York's Governor Eliot Spitzer was knocked out of power because of his involvement with a prostitute. Well, how many politicians do you think might be involved with prostitutes? They could be carefully selected for which political party they're in, and everyone from one political party could be knocked out of power because they say things on the phone that could be subject to blackmail. So the damage to our society of not having encryption for VoIP is difficult to estimate. It'll be huge. So this is just going to be the price that they have to pay. They're going to lose the ability to do some wiretapping. However, I'd like to say that there is something that you have to look at it from their point of view. It's not a total loss. Intelligence agencies get as much information from traffic analysis as they get from the content. They don't really get that much from the content. And in the case of the National Security Agency in the U.S., they're trying to, prevent another Al-Qaeda attack. And part of the way they do that is to observe the traffic patterns. There'll be a cell phone in Karachi that calls a cell phone in New York City. And then that cell phone calls 6 other cell phones right after that. Now, by knowing who's calling who, and when they called, and how long they talked, they're getting a lot of useful information, even if they don't know what the content is. In fact, usually the content isn't that instructive. The content will be something like, the wedding cake will be ready on Saturday. Well, look, hey, it's not a wedding cake. And it's probably not going to be Saturday either. So the content isn't that useful in a lot of cases, but the traffic patterns are useful. Now, on the other hand, the criminals, when they're wiretapping us, they're not that interested in the traffic patterns. They're interested in the content. If they want to listen to, say, a company, your corporate in-house counsel talking to the outside law firm, they want to know what that conversation